How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. Just hanging out today. Actually, I have a sick kid at home, so I've been just podcasting and doing that stuff. I'm sure you know as a how that goes. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, seeing.
Hopefully he recovers quick. Is
Yeah,
it just like
thanks.
you or?
Yeah, something like that. Just how it is,
Okay.
kids that get bugs, all that fun
Yeah.
stuff. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. What have you been up to?
Season. It's the season.
Yeah.
I'm about to leave for a vacation in Egypt for a couple of weeks over the Christmas break. So I'm trying to wrap up like a bunch of things before I
Oh
take off, and this
boy.
is one of them. So
Oh,
I
cool.
was really looking forward to this conversation with you.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for joining. I think the last time we hung out was a couple months ago in Australia, and it was fun
Yeah, I
touring
know.
with you for a bit. That's super fun.
Yeah, the other
Yeah.
side of the world, Australia and New Zealand as well, actually.
Australia, New
So
Zealand. It's for the audience, it's very far away. That's all I'm gonna say. From where we are in America, for if you live there and it's
yeah.
not that far.
I think it's far away from everybody. Yeah,
True.
yeah. If you live there, it's not far, but outside of Australia and New Zealand, it's a really long trip to get there. Yeah.
Egypt is also far though. That's where you're from, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
That's cool. What's the technology scene like in Egypt?
It's up and coming. So of course, Silicon Valley is special. Even within the U.S., Silicon Valley is special. So I would put Egypt on par with some European countries like Spain, Italy, and so on in terms of the
Wow,
technological scene. But yeah, they still have a long way to go.
it's a long
Yeah.
way to go.
Yeah.
What's it like going back there? Are you there visiting family, or are you there trying to stoke the entrepreneurial
Both
system as
actually.
well? That's
Both,
cool.
yes. So the primary reason is family, I'll be honest. My mom is back there, and it's very important to go back and see her.
Sure.
But then also, yeah, whenever I'm there, I try to either do something on the AI side or something on the entrepreneurship side. So actually, this time there is a conference called the Youth Summit,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
having an entrepreneurial talk at that conference. Yeah,
That's awesome. I think I saw that on your Instagram story, the entrepreneurial conference there. That's super
yeah.
cool. Do you like doing that kind of stuff, meeting with the youth and giving back at this point, or?
Yeah, I think it's important to give back. I mean, if you look at Silicon Valley, I think what made Silicon Valley special, to be honest, is there's so many people who give back. They don't just make their success by having their company succeed and then go buy an island in Hawaii and retire. No, they actually stay engaged and giving back. And one of the most famous stories was Steve Jobs when he called up. I can't remember, it was Hewlett or Packard, one of the HP guys, and Steve Jobs was only 13 years old, and they still answered the phone, and they gave him an internship, and they helped him the first computer. So yeah, I think that culture of giving back is very, very important, in my
That's
opinion.
cool. Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, and you've achieved some success. I mean, how did you get your start in tech and data?
Yeah, I mean, in tech, I mean, it goes back to my childhood essentially. So ever since I was young, I always had the curiosity of, like many of us engineers, the curiosity of figuring out how things work. So like I would break open everything my dad buys. Like he would bring a new TV, a new washing machine, whatever. I would disassemble it and then reassemble it. And that was the beginning of me getting excited about that. And then my dad, I have to give him credit, when I was very young, I had an Atari, and Atari mini for games, as you know, but he got this nice attachment that I was able to put on top of the Atari that had a keyboard, and it had basic programming language. And it was the beginning of me now, wow, okay, we can get these things to do our thing. And
Yeah,
I think that's what put me on that trajectory. And though I would have to say also that my dad always told me when I was young, when you grow up, you're going to be a professor like me. And my dad was a professor of economics at Cairo University. So that was my goal in life, actually, was to be a professor. I had no inclinations of being an entrepreneur. And then I give credit to Stanford for flipping me. Like Stanford,
mm,
from day one, they give you talks, they invite people from industry, they teach you how to do a business plan, a pitch, everything. And that flipped me. So Stanford flipped me. Yeah,
that's cool. That's really cool. But you were intent on becoming a professor originally?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
like my up until I was 25 years old, my dream in life was to become a professor. I no aspiration to become a business entrepreneur. Like that was not, because the same thing. The culture back then in Egypt didn't really encourage that. Like there is very few people
Mm.
who would do that. So it wasn't even something I was thinking about, that I would go do something like that.
What kind of professor are you planning on becoming?
Computer engineering.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, computer engineering. And I was on the track to be a tenured professor in Cairo University, and I had to give that up. Like I told them I'm not coming back, and I gave up my tenureship to be a professor. Yeah.
that's so cool. And what happened? How'd you get into sidetracked into business?
It's Stanford. Like again, first they teach you how to create a business, right? So
Yeah.
it demystifies it. Like if you don't know how to make a business, it feels hard. It feels like impossible. It feels like insurmountable. So the number one thing they do is they give you lots of education insights about how do you do a business plan, how do you do a pitch, how do you do the incorporation, a cap table, how to equity and dilution, and how that works. All of these things that makes it much more tractable. And also on the business side, they teach you marketing, positioning statements, branding, go to market, sales. So you start seeing, wow, that actually is not hard. Like
Yeah.
I can do this. And when you combine that with them also inviting a lot of entrepreneurs from the industry to come speak on campus, you get to see like the founder of HP or the founder of Intel or the founder of Google, and they're very humble people. They're all like they don't have wings or halos on their head. They're just normal people like me and you. They just have the grit and the motivation to make something happen. So once you see that, or once I personally saw that, that made it for me a lot more like, wow, I didn't want to do that. And the other thing also I'll highlight is uh, that a professor is great. And I think one of the cool things of being a professor is that you get to teach a lot of students, and that's kind of your legacy, is how many people you taught. But creating a company is a different type of legacy. If you can create a company that succeeds the test of time, then that can survive you and your students and your students' students and your kids' kids and your kids, right? It can keep on going for a very long time. And that was something important for me. Like I want to make a mark on the world where I know
Mm.
one day I'm gonna die. I know my kids are gonna die, and I want to leave something that will keep going. So that was another reason why no, this entrepreneurship thing is more attractive. I like that.
That's super cool. What was your first business?
Yeah, so actually, I dropped out for my first one from Stanford. I was doing my PhD. I was 2 years in, and I dropped out and I created this company called VivaSmart. That was back in 1999.
Wow.
And within 1 year, we were very fortunate that Yahoo acquired us. So I ended up at Yahoo because of acquiring the company. We're about five, six people.
Wow.
We got acquired for about $9 million, which back then was a big deal.
That was a
Today, nine
lot.
million
Yeah.
dollars acquisition is like peanuts in Silicon Valley. And we haven't really raised that much funding even. So it was a great, great first experience.
That's cool.
And I ended up at Yahoo because of that. And then Yahoo was nice enough to let me go back and finish the PhD, actually. So I did finish the PhD
Oh,
while I was
congrats.
working at Yahoo.
That's super cool. And
Yeah.
what happened after that? I'm kind of leading into the first big one. So
Yes, you're kind of like walking through the timeline step by step. So excellent job on the homework there.
yeah.
But yes, at Yahoo, at the beginning, I was working on integrating my company VivaSmart into Yahoo Shopping. So VivaSmart, the startup that got acquired, what we had was a crawler that controlled the web and extract prices and specs and product images and so on. And that you need that to be able to build an online shopping experience. And back then, that was hard stuff. Today, that's easy. You can do that in a blink of an eye. But back then, that was the beginning of the internet, back then in 1999. So after I finished integrating that into Yahoo Shopping, which took about 3 years, I started getting a lot more excited by data science and business intelligence, and how can we leverage data not just as a passive um, uh, participant, meaning a dashboard that you look at, but as an active participant that changes the behavior of the products as a function of
Mm.
the data. And I, among a number of other great people, started the A/B testing kind of movement within Yahoo to do A/B testing across all of the features: Yahoo Search, Yahoo News, Yahoo Sports, Yahoo Mail, et cetera, to make the products easier to use in real time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super cool. And that was really early days for that kind of stuff. I mean, operating on data at quote web scale, that wasn't I mean, you're kind of
Yes, that
pioneering a
was
lot of that
early
stuff.
2000s. Yeah, that was the beginning of the, I would say, the AI renaissance. Like the AI renaissance really started taking off. Not Gen AI, which has happened within the last 5 years, but AI as in leveraging data and machine intelligence to optimize products in real time. It really started happening around the early 2000s. And then the problem that we hit at Yahoo, which led to my second company, Cloudera, being formed, is if you're doing that at the individual basis, I call it the segment of one, right? So the old
Okay.
way of doing targeting and changing behavior of products was by doing something called segmentation, where you try to classify people. This is a male in the age range of 40 to 50, then they must like this, right? That's kind of the old way
Yeah.
of doing things. And that allowed us to crunch down the data and make it fit in a small table, which was easy. But we found out that no, if you do personalization, where you create a segment for every single user, you know exactly what they care about. It's not about their age, it's not about their gender, it's about what they care about, what they're reading, what they're clicking on, what they're spending time on. Then you're now able to optimize their experience a lot better. But that also meant now an explosion in the amount of data that needs to be processed, right? Because
Hmm.
you cannot aggregate it anymore. You cannot do aggregates, just sum up the numbers by the different segments. No, you have to create a segment for every single user. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of users at
Right.
that scale. And that triggered for me a lot of problems actually in my organization. My team's name was called PI, Product Intelligence Engineering, PIE or PI for short. And one of the biggest problems we had this very big query. We called it the monster query, was the name of that query. And the monster query, essentially what it was trying to do, is a very simple query. It's doing a join between all of the impressions, everything you have seen on a page, every single element, not the page itself, and then all the clicks that a given user had made on their click stream on that page. And you want to join both of these, and then you want to dedupe them on a per cookie basis, meaning on a per user basis. It's a very simple pair. So select distinct, join. It's
Yeah.
like a very simple query, but it's running on a massive amounts of data. So that we were using Oracle back then in our team, and Oracle just started to like fume, like it just couldn't finish. It actually reached a point where it just couldn't finish that job. The monster query would not finish on Oracle. We tried another number of other vendors. Teradata actually did work, but they were very expensive. And it's like, no way, I'm going to pay that much money to do this query. And then I was lucky that Doug Cutting was also at Yahoo working with the search team on building Hadoop, right? A new way to crawl the web scalably based on the papers from Google of MapReduce and GFS and the Google file system. And then one of the key engineers on that system in that team was called Alan Gates. And he said, you know what, that monster query, I can do it for you in Hadoop and it will run in minutes. I'm like, no way.
Wait,
You're
what?
kidding me. It's not going to happen. And he did that and it ran in minutes. Like the query that wouldn't finish even like in days on Oracle ran in minutes inside of the Hadoop environment. So that was for me the light bulb. Like, okay, there is a big business opportunity here. If that solved my problem, I'm sure many other people
Right.
start seeing that problem as well. And that's when I left Yahoo actually to found Cloudera. So that was the genesis of Cloudera.
That's really cool. The thing I've noticed about you, and I noticed this the first time we were hanging out, I think it was in Melbourne. You have this innate curiosity about you. I think you had this gadget with you that was a camera, that like a Gen AI camera.
Yeah,
And it seems
I
like you're
love it.
always trying new stuff. Walk me through that because I think I'm guessing this is sort of what informed your insights into forming a company like Cloudera and Vectara. But like, how do you see the world? Because you're different than a lot of people I meet.
Yeah, I mean, I see the world as a continuous puzzle that we need to be solving to make better. That's how I
Yeah.
see the world, right? And because it's a puzzle, that means you have to keep discovering the different ways that you can make it work better. And that's where the curiosity comes. So I'm always curious about how things work. Like that's something I'm always actively looking at. But when it comes to companies, entrepreneurship, that tends to be driven from I'm seeing that problem. Like I know that's a problem. I have it personally, but I know that other people are going to have it. And that's why I should go build something to make that problem easier
Mm,
to solve, right? And that really was the genesis of Cloudera. Between myself, one of my co-founders is Jeff Acker. He was doing the same thing at Facebook, and same problems. And we looked at the data we're collecting back then on. I'm like, that's the tip of the iceberg. Like we're just at the beginning going to really be unlocked, which became called big data later on, and Cloudera
mhm.
played a role in that name, big data. Jeff Hammerbacker, he gets selected for the name data scientist
Yeah.
as well. But to answer your question, if I boil it back, is the curiosity driven from an innate desire to make the world around us a better place, around me a better place, which hopefully will be around all of us. And if you really want to do that, then you need to understand how things work so you can do it. So if I were to like peel the layers of the onion, it would be the essence at the heart of it.
Well, the thing I've noticed too with Cloudera and Vectara, which we'll talk about in a bit, but you also earlier than most, right? Like I think that you have sort of this sixth sense of where things are going, and you're a few years early. Like, how do you know what to take a bet on?
It's really hard to know what to take a bet on. Like I'll be honest with you, but experiencing the problem yourself, it gives you
Mm.
extra confidence that this is something worth taking a bet on. So if you have not experienced the problem and you're guessing, for example, actually, I don't want to make examples because I don't want to
No
point
worries.
fingers at any other companies, but you're guessing, oh, it's going to be important, right? This is going to be important. Okay, I think it is not because I experienced the problem. I know it's a big problem. No, it's because I have a gut feeling this is going to be useful in the future. That is very, very risky, right? To go something like that. But if you have experienced it yourself, no, this is really a problem. I know this problem exists. Then the variable now is not about whether the problem exists. The variable now is this a one-man problem, a one-person problem, only my problem, or is it going to be a problem that many other people have, right?
Yeah.
So the next level of the onion there is now you need to talk with your peers. In my case, for example, for Cloudera, was Jeff Hammerbacker, and wow, we actually have the same problem. Like, so that now is evidence that this goes beyond us, and that gives you really good confidence that this is something that will be worthwhile. So it's a combination of curiosity, again, understand why problems exist, the root cause for them, and how to try and address them, coupled with I just was lucky at the right place at the right time where I could experience these problems because before others could experience them. Even with Vectara, my new company, which we can talk about in a second, I saw that at Google. Like same thing. I saw the beginnings of why these large language models, as they hallucinate, we cannot really depend on them in business. We're going to need something that fixes that. I experienced that firsthand at Google. So
Mm,
again, it was coming from that. So my advice to entrepreneurs always is if you can do something that is being driven out of a problem that you're very acutely aware of, then your chances of success is going to be way higher.
right. So what is Vectara?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I'm going to give you two definitions for that. One of them is the business layman definition, and the other one is the more technical engineering definition. So the business layman definition is we help businesses build AI agents and AI assistants that are reliable, meaning they don't hallucinate, they don't make up stuff, they have high quality results. Second, they are secure. They don't leak information, resilient to prompt attacks, etc., etc. And third, are explainable and observable. They explain how they came up with their recommendations or their conclusions, which is a must in regulated industries. So in industries like finance, insurance, health, you cannot just have the AI tell you this is the right mortgage. Go give it the mortgage. No, you have to explain why
Right.
did you recommend this mortgage rate for that person. So it has to be explainable. So we have these three things. This is exactly what Vectara does. We give you AI assistants and AI agents that are reliable, that are accurate, that are secure and explainable. They explain how they made their conclusions. Now, the more technical term, it's very simple. It's RAG as a service. So we have a retrieval augmented generation pipeline where we control the pipeline beginning to end. We have our models for doing the embeddings, for doing the re-ranking. We have our own vector database that we built ourselves as part of the platform, the generation, the hallucination detection, and so on. And we put all of these pieces together to create a real-time pipeline that satisfies these needs while allowing you to change data in real time. So the data can be updated at any time and the impact of it will be available in the output right away. Because as many people will tell you, if they start using RAG, the biggest problem with RAG, number one problem by far is accuracy, is
Hmm.
making sure that the RAG system is giving you an accurate answer. And that problem boils down to two things that you need to fix. The first one is hallucination. So you need to fix hallucination or have something that measures that. And the second one is data quality. As we like to say, garbage in, garbage out. In the same sense that we have ETL for BI systems, we need to have ETL also for AI systems. Because
Mm.
if you're fetching in the wrong data into the RAG pipeline, guess what? Your RAG system is going to give you the wrong answer. There's a very funny story on that one. Sorry for the digression, but
No, please do.
Google a few months ago, they had launched their own RAG system for the Google web search. And in Google web search, somebody was searching for, I'm trying to make a pizza, but the cheese keeps sliding off the pizza. Like every time I cook the pizza, the cheese slides off the bread. And how can I make the cheese stay on the bread, right? And then the AI responded back is put glue in the middle. Just put glue between the and many people at the beginning thought that that was a hallucination, right? And it turned out, no, it was not a hallucination. That was a data quality issue. It
Oh,
turned out
really?
there was a Reddit post. Yeah, there was a Reddit post where somebody was asking about this. They said, I'm trying to cook a pizza and my cheese keeps sliding off. And then a human sarcastically replied back saying, put glue in the middle. And he was being sarcastic. But people liked that response so much. So it got so many thumbs up because of how funny it
Mm.
is, right? So the AI, as it was crawling that, the AI is looking thumb, 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 thumb. That means that must be the right answer. The right answer is you put glue in the middle. So it turned out to be a data quality issue. So, but to tie this back, that's why it's very important. If you have a RAG pipeline that's working on your data, you need to have mechanisms first for observing the output. So you know when a problem happened, because problems will happen. I assure you, and very quickly how to fix that, right? To detect, oh, this wrong answer came because of that document was an old document. It's the old version. Let's remove it, or let's include a timestamp in our metadata so that we're relying on the newer versions versus the older versions,
Mm.
etc., etc. So you need to be able to tie the loop. But the bottom line is you need to solve hallucinations and you need to solve data quality. If you don't solve these, your RAG pipeline will be a failure.
Sounds like it. So
But does that explanation make sense to you?
yeah, it
What
does.
we do?
Yeah, it does. But you mentioned that you started Victar to solve a hallucination problem that
Yeah,
seen at a previous company.
at
Uh,
Google.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What was? Can you walk through that? What were you?
Well, I can. I mean, Google is a. I mean,
Yeah, I know they're already.
I have to the confidentiality or
Yeah,
whatever and so on. But there's some public information that came out, so I can talk about it from that perspective.
yeah,
So Google actually had the precursor of ChatGPT 2 years before ChatGPT came out. Like they had
yeah,
it inside. It was called Mina, MENA. And I guess Mina is driven from meaning or something. And we were able to chat with that chatbot all the time. That's why there was also some engineer at Google that said, I think the AI is sentient
yeah.
and was trying to hire a lawyer for it. So that was the same AI that all of us were playing with. And you can tell when you're working with it, you can tell that it keeps making up stuff. Like it keeps making up things that can be, even though it's very eloquent and it says things perfectly and converses perfectly, every now and then it just makes some really, really wrong factual conclusions. And that clearly made it visible that, okay, if we want to leverage that in business for consumers and doing chatbots like character AI, whatever, it's okay if you hallucinate every now and then, even though it can actually be dangerous sometimes in that context too.
Well, you might glue
But
your
within a
pieces
business
together. Yeah.
context, yeah, within a business context, if you're doing a mortgage, if you're doing a financial audit, if you're doing a legal draft, no, you cannot have these hallucinations. So that was the trigger.
That's cool. And then around what year did you start Victara?
uh, uh, towards that. So I had my co-founders actually started before me, and I joined them up about a year after into their journey. So they started 2019, and then I joined in 2020.
Okay, so again, early insight, right?
Yeah,
I think
yeah, yeah.
GPT-2 just came out in 2018, I
Yes,
believe. Yeah.
yeah. We launched our product a year before ChatGPT came out.
That's great. So
Yeah,
again, like how did you know? Because I think especially around that time, pre-ChatGPT, it wasn't at all clear that
it
these
wasn't clear to the
models,
people outside. Yes, but
yeah,
I'm saying if you imagine you had tried ChatGPT 2 years ahead of time, this is exactly what
yeah.
happened to us.
So you
So
kind
we
of knew
had
this was
Mina.
happening.
Yeah, we had Mina inside of Google 2 years before ChatGPT came out, right?
Yeah.
So we already saw that. We already saw how smart these systems are going to be able to parse and understand language and
Hmm.
extract meaning from it. So that was not. So you're absolutely right. If I had not witnessed that, then I would not have had the insights that wow, we need a solution now that can address that.
Well, yeah, because
So
I think
so
to a lot of people, this stuff seems like science fiction. I remember when
yeah,
ChatGPT came out, like,
yeah.
what is that? That's cool. So,
Yeah, exactly. The entire world was blown away when they like the ChatGPT moment. We sometimes call it the browser moment, so like to make the same
yeah.
analogy, or the Netscape moment, right? Like we had the internet for 10 years before Netscape came out, and all of us geeks we could use
Mhm.
Slipknot and and all of these amazing modem tools to do things and put images together. And remember, we had to assemble images like block by block to make the image render at the end, which was a horrible experience, really. But Netscape now just opened that up to everybody. Like everybody was like, "Wow, there's this thing called internet now where I can browse with the browser." And ChatGPT was the exact same thing. Like all of us in the industry, we know about GPT-2 and GPT-3 and inside Google Mina and other tools. We knew about it. It's happening. We knew it was coming. But ChatGPT made the world know that it's coming. So that's kind of
Mhm.
how I look at it. Yeah.
And what was that like? Because you had insights into sort of the enterprise end of things where you're trying to, reduce hallucinations and whatnot. What was the education process like with customers and users who are coming from using ChatGPT to thinking, oh, I want this in my business now. How do I get started?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the industry is still going through that
Oh,
exercise right
okay.
now. Like
Interesting.
that, yeah, there's early adopters right now that are way ahead of the curve. There are, but there is also most of the industry right now. They can see the power. Yeah, that can help me write an email. That can help me make a presentation. They can see that, but they cannot see yet how can that help me completely change how I do customer support. They cannot see how can that completely help me change how I enable my workers in a factory maintain the machines themselves versus hiring a technician to maintain the machines because the workers now can have an AI helping them do the maintenance. How can I make the workers in an oil rig safer by having an AI telling them, don't do this. You're doing it the wrong way right now. That might create problems, and reminding them to do the right things. They're still learning that. Businesses are still
Hmm.
learning that, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, it
At the
seems like
beginning
it.
of this journey, it's moving fast. It's moving way faster than the big data movements. At Cloudera, it took us maybe between Hadoop early beginnings and between us really seeing the liftoff, meaning businesses really jumping in droves. It took maybe 4 years, 5 years.
Oh wow,
I see that happening in half the time right now with Gen AI. Yeah,
interesting. You say we're at the beginnings of this, and it
yeah.
definitely feels like it. I guess if you were to compare it to the internet age, or comparing kind of
Yes.
dog years to whatever, like where do you think we are relative to that scale timeline?
Can you clarify what you mean by that
Yeah, I mean,
question?
so like you mentioned, Netscape came out, the sort of
Yeah.
ChatGPT moment, and then you were sort of went through the dot-com boom and a bunch of companies around the web and a bunch of other I guess epochs in the web, Yahoo, Amazon, so forth. How early
Yes.
do you think we are in I guess if you were to compare the timescales
Yeah, so
of
we're
the
still in
web?
that kind of phase where there are the newer upcomers that are building cool things, the new startups building cool things with the internet back then, with Gen AI right now. But the big businesses, meaning Walmart, has not really shifted to use e-commerce internet yet, right? Walmart is
Yeah.
still selling in stores. So we are now just at the beginning of the businesses now also saying, oh wow, this works for us too, right? In the same way that when the internet at the beginning, you had companies like Amazon, which really saw how this is going to change the world, which I would say OpenAI is the equivalent here for this world. And then after Amazon now starts showing success, how that's really changing the way that e-commerce can be done with the internet, then Walmart and Macy's and Target and everybody else started to jump on, right?
Hmm.
So we are just at the beginning of that. Like that is just literally happening right now. We're going to see the first fruits of that, I would say, by the middle of next year. Like the first company, big companies really launching Gen AI applications, not just for internal use cases. I mean, everybody's using this for internal use cases now. I'm talking about for their own customers and the
Hmm.
outside world. I think we'll really start seeing that toward the middle of next year.
What are those use cases that you're seeing in the enterprise that are sort of the killer use cases that everyone needs to do?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I really boil it down to one of my favorite quotes ever from the movie The Matrix. So hopefully the Matrix is one of your
Mm-hmm.
favorite
Yep.
movies as well. And so one of my favorite quotes from that movie is when Neo, when Keanu Reeves was tied up to the machine, and back then they had this big thing that goes in the back of their head. Hopefully, it's going to be a neural link nowadays, not like a big spire that you inject in your head. But he spent 8 hours inside of the machine, and then at the end, he looks at everybody else and he says, "I know kung fu." So that's the line I'm referring to. I know
Hmm.
kung fu. So what does that mean? The I know kung fu line. That means that there is a worker that was average in something, and they now became expert because of the AI helping them. This is really that is the killer use case, right?
Right.
So to give you some examples, we have a very large manufacturer that uses us, and they have many workers in their factories. The workers don't know how to fix the machines, so when the machines break down, they have to call up the technicians, and technicians can take 2 days to show up to fix the machine, which is downtime. So what they have done is they took all of the manuals of the machines, they took all of the troubleshooting tickets and maintenance tickets for how these machines were repaired and fixed in the past, loaded all of that into our system, and then now the workers have an AI agent similar to ChatGPT but optimized for that use case that they can use now to describe the problem, and it gives them the solution for how to fix the machines themselves. So now the worker became a technician, right? The worker knows kung fu now, knows how to do a technician's job. And that same pattern is going to happen over and over and over again in every single industry, where we'll take the average of us and make us way above average. The analogy I sometimes give people so that they can relate to it is Google Maps. Before Google
Mm.
Maps, we were all really bad at navigation, right? Very
Yep.
few of us knew how to go from the East Coast to the West Coast, for example, right? Or if we do with paper maps, we would have fights with our spouse or significant other in the cars the whole journey, right? And ask people in the street, they give you wrong directions and so on. But Google Maps came out and it turned all of us from being average navigators to being expert navigators. right? All of us now can almost go from anywhere to anywhere with that. However, the AI behind Google Maps was custom made. It was custom made just for that problem, right? The difference with Gen AI wave that we're in right now is we have a generic solution that can do that same thing for any problem. So that is the killer use case. So the killer use case is the I know Kung Fu use case. Now, how it's going to manifest itself is going to be depending on the business and the industry and. And sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's external. It means it's going to help the end users. Like another example I like to use is with software. Today, when we use software, we struggle with using software. It's not easy. The simple things are easy. Like if you want to, for example, use Photoshop to change something in a picture, and it's a simple change, it's easy to do. But if you want to do something more complex, like say you took a great picture with your family on the beach, great sunset behind you, but one of your kids put their finger in their nose. That's very hard to fix with Photoshop with the old way. You have to look at YouTube, you have to read tutorials to figure out how to move the finger, get the shadows, the lighting, and everything. Within a few months, actually you can do it now. I don't know if you can do it in Photoshop today or not, but there's other tools allow you to do this. You just tell the software, remove my son's finger from his nose, right? And the finger just goes away. Or in a business context, imagine using an HR software. I'm not going to name any HR companies, but one of the most popular ones here in the US starts with the letter W, and I'll let you think who that is. They're very hard to use because they're built for the HR department. They're not built for the employees. So when you try to go take a vacation, there's many forms you have to fill, and you always have to look at the documentation first to figure out how I'm going to fill the forms to take that vacation. In a few months, you'll be able to just tell the software, I want to take a vacation. And then the software will tell you, okay, I know everything about you, but you're missing these two pieces of information. Why you're taking the vacation? The reason, is it paid, unpaid, and what are the days? And thank you, I filed the vacation for you. Right. So that's kind of the experience we're going to see as well. So there's I know Kung Fu on one end, which is
Yeah.
allowing the average of us to be experts. And then on the other end, there's all of these software packages, which are very hard to do the complex workflows in, that will be a lot more simpler because of it. These are the two killer use cases, in my humble opinion.
Is that last case use case that you mentioned, the vacation example, is that an example of an assistant or an agent workflow?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm trying to dumb it down for the
Yeah,
average
yeah,
listener,
please
but
do.
the more technical
Yeah.
term, that's exactly the AI agentic workflows, right? So you have two phases, right, that we're going through. The current phase is what I call the AI assistant phase, which is there is a human in the loop, right? So when you say, I want to remove my son's finger from his nose, the software tells you these are the steps. And then you have to go do the steps yourself. Or you say, I want to take a vacation. I don't remember how to do it. The assistant replies back and says, these are the steps. And then the human goes and does the step. Or when a worker has a machine broken in the factory, they describe it, and then the AI tells them this is how you fix the machine, right? So that's step number one. That's the phase we're in right now as an industry. I think that we're going to take 2-3 years in that phase because as long as we have hallucinations, there's not going to be the confidence of let's have the AI just do everything,
Right.
right? There's still gonna be this. Let's have a human in the middle, look at the answer and implement the answer to apply some common sense. But once we nail hallucination, and we'll do that on a per use case basis, some of them will happen sooner than others. Then now we will start shifting to the AI agents category, which is no, I just tell it, hey, I want to take a vacation, just go do it for me. I want to fix this machine. Tell the machine to fix itself. The machine will go fix itself, right? I don't have to do the steps. The machine will do the steps for itself.
Right.
So that's kind of the next step, and that's the AI agents wave. Yeah.
Do you foresee a time when when companies are, I would say mostly run by agents, but I would say a lot of the workflows are agent enabled or it's,
I know that's what Sam Altman keeps preaching, and I think Andrew
yeah,
preaches that a bit as well.
yeah, he does.
uh, I think if you look out maybe like 10 years, yes, I can see that. But within the next 5 years, no, I don't think so.
Don't
I
think
don't
so
think that will
though.
happen within the next 5 years. Not because of the AI capabilities, by the way. I think the AI capabilities will be there. We'll have
Yeah.
AGI within the next 5 years, but it's because humans will resist that. Like humans will
Mm,
resist. Let's have the AI just do everything for us. And even if you are entrepreneurial and you want to do it, the government will resist and say, no, no, this form has to be submitted by a human, not by the AI. Another business you're working with where you submit ads, no, these ads have to be submitted by a human, not by the AI. So there's going to be some human resistance that I think will slow down that complete uh, like amazing view of you starting a company by yourself and all of your employees are AI agents. I think that is a few years out, like a
mhm.
decade out. I could be wrong, but that's kind of my feeling. Not because again, not because of technology, but
Yeah.
because of us, the human civilization is needing to evolve to
Hmm.
accept that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm starting a new company right now and I've been trying to just figure how can I just make this run by bots if I can. So
Yes,
it's an
yeah, yeah,
exciting time. You didn't have this option
yeah,
a few years ago. So I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
let's see what we can
yeah,
do. You know,
exactly.
and Andrew and
No,
I
you
are
should be
working on
doing
a
it. But don't get me
oh,
wrong. I
should
don't want
be
the answer to be don't
yeah.
do it. The answer is do it. You should do it. Like
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. And I even have an avatar I'm working on right now with Andrew. So that'll be kind of interesting
Oh,
to, yeah. So that'll be, yeah.
with picture and with video and picture or
I
just
think that's,
voice or
yeah, that's the plan. Yeah. It'll just be a video bot. So we'll see how that
yeah, yeah.
works.
Cool.
And put, put that in the world. I don't know for better or for worse. But
Yeah.
you
I mean,
mentioned,
Reid Hoffman has one like that.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Actually, sometimes it goes on TV interviews and instead of him, right?
Oh,
And
that's
and
handy.
he jokes and says sometimes the TV reporters when they call in, they say we don't want the real Reid Hoffman, we want the cat avatar,
Ouch.
which is very strange.
You can
And then
have it.
it can speak 50 languages. Sorry to interrupt.
You
It
know,
can
he's really
speak 50
smart.
languages.
Yeah, that seems to be the future we're going into, though, it's I think that's allowing me with this new business to sort of reimagine, in this case, an education business, how that would be run. I think there's a lot of possibilities that,
Oh, absolutely.
but you need to I think you need to approach it from almost from an AI first perspective, and obviously focus on what end customers want, but it's
And
a good time
quality
to
and security. So,
for
see, again,
sure.
we don't underestimate that the guardrails and then making sure the AI does not go off the bat. For example, in an education environment where you can start saying things to the kids that can corrupt them in
Big
bad
one.
ways. Like can tell them, hey, go put glue in the middle of your pizza and your cheese, right? And that can lead to death if you do
Oh
something like
yeah.
that. So the quality, like really the thing that's holding us back in terms of Gen AI being everywhere and this is Gartner and Forrester, everybody does surveys around this. The number one thing by far is the quality. Like that's the
Data.
number one
Yeah.
thing that's holding businesses from just going all in on this is quality. And then number two is security, right after quality. Like
Mm.
these are the privacy and security. Yeah.
Walk me through this then. So when you go into an enterprise, and I'm sure they have all kinds of data, they probably have text data and structured data and tables. Walk me through sort of the hygiene or the practices a business needs to have data that's appropriate for AI.
And that's the beauty of these newer systems. It can work with any type of data, right? So we do handle unstructured data, tabular data, diagrams, even like
Yeah.
there is a semiconductor use case we're working on right now, actually, that has circuit diagrams, right? And you have AND gates and OR gates, and you can ask questions about the diagrams itself, and the AI can totally do that. So it's not about the modalities. It's not about the different types of
Mm.
documents or the different type of inputs. It's about which is the source of truth. Which of them is the most accurate version? That is the problem.
Mm.
As many companies will have 5 different PowerPoint presentations for the same topic. Will have 3 HR policy documents for the same thing. They can't tell which one, the AI can't tell which one is the right one. And if you have internal employees giving thumbs up to one because they want to influence the AI in the wrong way, the AI will be influenced, like that example with the cheese in the pizza again. So the hard part is the ETL of which of these documents and which of these records are the correct ones that the AI can depend on. That is the hard part, actually, that most companies have to pay attention to. Now,
Interesting.
whether they're images or diagrams or PowerPoint or Word or tables, that's the easy part. Like
Yeah.
that's not the issue. Yeah, it's the
Interesting.
metadata. As you're in the metadata space yourself, you know
Yeah.
ETL and how hard it is. It's all about the metadata. Like if you don't have the metadata correct for every single document and who's allowed to see that document, who's not allowed to see that document, is that the most current version? Is that the most accurate version? Then yeah, it's not going to work.
But you know that a lot of companies have enormous, especially big companies, right? Enormous amounts of data, probably more than they even know about. I mean, how do you, yeah, I mean, it seems like this is going to be a lot of work.
It is. It
Yeah,
is. It is. No, you're right. It's a good startup idea. Like maybe somebody is doing that, like working on ETL tools. Like as I said, we have ETL for BI. We're gonna need ETL for AI. We need good ETL tools for AI that can selectively curate of all the data the company has. This is the proper subsets that the AI should be depending on right now. And that's much harder done than said, obviously.
yeah, it seems like it. I mean, I'm working on a book on data modeling right now, and that should be out spring. But um, yeah, I mean, overwhelmingly, and you know this. I mean, running data companies, it's just the data is always
Yeah.
it's in some shape of or quality. Who
Yeah.
knows? But yeah, and for analytics, that was always the crux of it too.
Yeah.
And now it's same with
Still an
AI.
unsolved problem. It's still an unsolved problem for analytics. Like the ETL and metadata management around all of the different sources I have is still an unsolved problem. I mean, there's a new architecture called data mesh. I'm not sure if you're familiar with data
Yeah.
mesh. It seems to be very promising in terms of trying to bring the same concepts of Docker and Kubernetes to the data world. And that might help with some of the metadata nightmares that we have because of how many different data systems we have in our organizations. But that remains like we had that problem ever since the first data table, and we
Yeah.
still have it unsolved up to today.
Absolutely. Yeah, my friend Ole Bagno, he's working on actually another architecture called what is it, the metagrid,
Hmm.
which is a metadata grid. So I'll put that in your radar. Maybe I'll send you some articles on it. But it's
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
yeah, it might be a silver bullet, but yeah, there's crappy data everywhere. Uh, Kind of switching from AI. So I texted you a question that you
Ah,
always would like to talk about.
yeah.
And I'll read it. What makes humans special, and why are we the leaders of this planet?
Yeah, so that goes back to our beginning of our conversation. Like I always like to understand how things work, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of I have this curiosity, innate curiosity in me. And I always think about this question, like, why are we the leaders of this world versus dolphins or crows or dogs or cats or lions or any like why us? Why humans? Why are we able to control this entire planet in the way that we do? And sometimes people say it's because of language, because we can talk to each other and we have language. But no, there's actually animals that have very complex languages. Like dolphins and whales have very, very complex languages. In fact, some whales can have three active conversations at a given time. We can't, right? I'm actually my wife can, but I can't have more than one conversation. I mean three active, like all of them, that all of the communication
I didn't
channels
know
are
that.
talking.
That's insane.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So it's not language. And so some would say it's tool building, but no, there's many animals that build tools and are able to build tools. So I always struggle with, like, I don't know the answer. Like I have some theories for why it might be the answer. Like one of them is advanced tool building, is we're really really good at building tools, not just building them, using them in very advanced ways, right? So the fact that we have cranes that can build skyscrapers, that's a very big part of why we are so successful. The fact that we have factories that can make tons and tons of cars, that the fact that we have uh, 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 transportation that can move us across the world, like airplanes and so on. Like these are very advanced tools that made us truly control the planet. So our ability to build tools is definitely one of the key things, I think, that allowed us to control this planet and be as good as we are in terms of dominating other creatures on this planet. So tool building and tool using, I think that's a very key one. But then I'm a very big fan also of Sapiens, which is
Yeah.
Yuval Noah Harari's book. And he made a very good observation there as well. Is one of the unique things about us is we can coalesce around big missions. So other animals, they coalesce against their tribe, but the tribe usually goes up to maybe 80 members of the tribe, and that's it. They stop at 80. Animals are like gorillas or whatever, elephants, they just don't go more than 80, 100 at the high end. No, we can go like the entire country, then like the 300 million people in the US. Hopefully, we all have similar goals and we want to achieve the same mission. Or the 100,000 people working at Google, they all want to make Google great and they believe in Google, even though Google doesn't exist, by the way. Google is just a bunch of legal documents, but
Right.
they believe in that mission. They believe in that entity, and we're gonna all work very hard to make that entity, whether it be Google or Apple or the USA or any other country, you name it. We're gonna work very hard to make it great, and that brings us together. So I think it's the combination of these two things. If I were to put my finger on it, the combination of how we can unify around great missions like capitalism, that's something that we all align on, and
Hmm.
all entrepreneurs believe in it. And second, our ability to build and leverage tools to make us superhuman, right? So actually, there is a very famous study I've seen once. What is the most by try to guess, actually, a
Yeah.
question to you, and maybe you know the answer.
I don't know.
What's the most biomechanically efficient animal on the planet that can go the furthest distance with the least number of calories being consumed? Who do you think that is in the planet?
I think it's humans, isn't it? Or
Not humans, no.
okay, interesting.
Yeah. So
What is
it's
it?
actually hawks. So hawks can
Oh,
glide
no
for
way.
very, very long distances for very, very little energy.
Okay.
That said, give a human a bicycle and he will beat the hawk. You see, so with a
Yeah.
bicycle, we can beat the hawk, but by our legs alone, no, we can't, right? So it goes back to this humans plus tools is really what makes us superhuman and allow us to conquer all other animals. But we don't have the scale of scaling up these tools if we didn't have the unified missions that we can
Hmm.
align on. So that's kind of how I think about that.
Makes
Does
a
that
lot
make
of
sense to you?
sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, especially the Sapiens comment too, because no matter where I've been in the world, I'm sure you've seen this too. I don't know, I always try and pay attention to the stories that people tell themselves, and whether it's a city or a nation or something like that. It's always fascinating because everywhere's different, right? And why
Yeah,
is it that some people decide to live here? What's the story they tell
yeah.
themselves about living here? It's
Yeah, yeah. But also it's a curse and a blessing, right? So this
yeah,
tribalism of believing in our tribe. I work for Google. I'm going to make Google great. I work for the USA. I'm going to make the USA great. While on one side it's awesome because it unifies us, on the other side it also separates us.
mhm.
The USA, I'm better than you, you other stinky country that doesn't believe in the same things we believe in, and you start thinking me as a human now I'm a better human than you because of my affiliation with that group, the tribe that they
Yeah,
belong to. And that's when you shift now from nationalism. Nationalism is great. I love nationalism. Loving your country is awesome.
yeah,
Loving your company. That's why we give people T-shirts and things saying Vectara on them. And I'm sure you're doing the same in your
yeah,
company because we want them to love the company. But it shouldn't come with the other aspect of, and I'm better than you. Because I belong to that company, I'm better than you. Because
right.
I belong in that country, I'm better than you, which is what do you call that? Like it's not racism, it's like superiorism, like supremacy. Right? It's
Yeah.
like you believe in your supremacy just because of which country or which company you're working for. Then now that's not good. But nationalism, absolutely great.
Yeah. It's this is interesting, and it's how do you think this is the human what makes humans great, and the sense of mission? Where do you think AI fits into this over the long term? How do you think?
Again, if you go back to the two things I highlighted before,
Yeah.
one of the key things is our ability to leverage tools, right?
Hmm.
And AI is one of the best tools we have ever been that we have ever witnessed, right? And that will absolutely not allow us to have control over this planet. I think that will allow us to have control over many other planets. Like it's the beginning of that.
Hmm.
So that's how I see the AI role here. But that at the same time, and not, now this is a longer discussion for maybe for the next time we talk,
Yeah,
which is
sure.
one of my favorite movies about AI is Idiocracy. Idiocracy is this
Oh, that's such a
movie
good movie.
yeah, where so many humans get used to the AI that we become stupid because of us relying on AI to do everything for us. So our neural network stops evolving and we just become dumb. And yeah, there is a probability that that can happen and that can be very
Hmm.
dangerous. So, but we'll have that to another
Yeah,
time.
love to. Yeah. Kind of closing out, like what are you excited about over the next year?
It's really delivering on this mission. So delivering on the mission of enabling use cases where the average human in any domain can be an expert, like very close to an expert. They're not going to be 100% expert, they're going to be like 90% expert. A doctor that's not the most amazing doctor, they become really good. A nurse that makes mistakes every now and then makes way fewer mistakes. A car driver that makes accidents all the time because they drink and drive, and the AI now drives in their place and they don't do as many accidents. Like that's number one, right? So I know Kung Fu happening
Yeah.
across many use cases, and then software human software engagements being a lot more easier. That any
Mm.
of us are able to use the most complex piece of software without having to read the manual, understand all the menus. By the way, menus now have like a million commands in them. Like it used to be menus used to have only like 10 commands. Now like menus are like jungles. So that's why we need that. So I think it's the combination of these two things that makes me excited. There's going to be a much more tighter harmony between humans and machines, and the side effect of that, there's going to be many humans that now that especially the ones that have the grit, the motivation, and the intention, that will be able to go from being average to being super average. So being sorry, superhuman. Yeah,
That's awesome.
that
Cool.
excites me. That really excites me.
It excites me too. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of years coming ahead.
Yeah,
No idea what unfolds, but I think it's going to be pretty fun. So,
exactly. Let's
Amr, it's
make sure
been
it unfolds in the right way. That's
yes,
what I
please.
also tell myself. Yeah, we have the agency to hopefully keep working on it and make it move in the right direction. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Amr, it's been great chatting with you.
Thank
Hope
you,
you have a good
Joe.
time in
I
Egypt.
always love
So,
conversing with you. Thank
yeah,
you.
likewise. Yeah, I'll have to have it back on sometime soon. So, all right, I'll take care. Bye.
See ya.